Some decades ago, the rise of Satanism surfaced as a logical consequence after centuries of religious dictatorship by the Christian Church. Many of the satanic traditions claim to have been active in the shadows for ages, hence waging an intellectual war against the so-called modern interpretations of it. This truth is less linear than it has been claimed, since the egregoric facet of the diabolus can be seen as a primal, yesodic reflection, contextualized by the moral and paradigmatical imprint of Abrahamism, or simply put, an astral and psychosexual embodiment of the etheric shadow component which for centuries has blocked the flow of our primal force. This element can be understood solely by experience, and mainly by the ecstasies of the correct implementation of ritual. Hence, the importance of the phenomenon called the Black Mass. It is by the popularization of Satanism in the 70s and 80s, where it found its way into both the media, in terms of the satanic panic, as well as in the media landscape of both horror movies and rock and metal music, that new and more improved possibilities surfaced en masse to unkind the primal force of the ancient serpent on an ever so collective scale. The diabolus is an anomaly which manifests itself as an active component of which its trademark is instigation. Hence, the prevalence of rebellion, shock, and taboo as an anticlimax and answer in many niches. The collective subconsciousness has been nothing more than a prison ground for our psychosexuality, bound by the chains of atonement, turning it at the same time into a nursery for all possible forms of astral larvae. The energetic strangulation of the Christian Church turned the intangible world into a collective nuclear wasteland, where nothing was possible to grow nor heal, but to poison the vital genetical codes of mankind for centuries. This was strategically done by implementing the concept of morality, together with their invention of sin. This echoed a disastrous noise deep into the collective psyche of mankind, programming the neurological mechanism with the idea of atonement and shame. A deep-seated sense of guilt for our instincts, our nature. A feeling of hate that has made humanity deny its deepest and most atavistic tendencies, which inevitably led us to become a wretched, confused, and self-destructive kind. This psychic systematic was like an energetic software that has completely oppressed our most potent vital essence, that is, the force of the ancient serpent. Because of this, humanity was doomed to be an enslaved race that has lost the roots of its very own foundation. Due to this mass psychological scheme, it is important to understand the essence of adversarialism as a means to energetically free oneself from these energetical bindings. This should not be confused with aimless rebellion or senseless violence, but rather as a way to question the meaning of morality and the ever-prevailing question of good and evil, to cleanse one's energetic field from all hindrances that obstruct the connection with our higher will. The black art of sign is a tool that has the capacity to release very specific channels which are obstructed in the etheric field. That is, if this tool is implemented correctly, in line with the magical and esoteric praxis of the individual, with the aim to undo oneself from the bindings of the Eucharist. This should not be confused with, for example, lower forms of criminality, based on internal shortcomings like hate crime or other degenerated views on evil that would justify criminality as merely a part of our nature, but rather revolutionary acts that transcend the status quo, both internally as well as externally, with the aim to break the chains of oppression and limitation in their most holistic forms. One of the greatest examples connected with Orthodox devil worship is the Black Mass, for which the concept of blasphemy has been ever so important and prevalent in its mythology. However, it is no secret that the concept of sin, crime, and lawlessness has been wrongly implemented, and in many ways unjustly linked with Satanism by those of lower spiritual nature. Subhumans, degenerates, or as the Gnostics put it, hillocks. Another example is the identification with certain famous criminals for the sake of sensation and shock value. In terms of esoteric praxis, however, this can be a valuable means to gain deeper understanding and insight in the realm of crime, in its nature and the psychological mechanisms behind it, let alone the often completely misplaced depth and mystery of some criminals, who are in reality nothing more than beasts who cannot control their urges, since the entire mystique behind criminality and the identification with serial killers, psychopaths, and the like has no value to Satanism, other than its complete antithesis, which is the realization that most of these notorious figures are in reality beings that are trapped into their own bestial limitations. That is, if their actions had no value nor purpose connected to evolution or existential dynamism. The Forbidden Realms are a topic of fascination for humanity in general, especially if we consider its impact on sexuality, entertainment, and the media landscape of this modern day and age. Hence, the reason why sex sells, as well as violence and the ongoing demand for horror movies, crime series, and the like. For many years now, the aesthetic of horror, blood, and bestiality holds a complete misunderstood position in the concept of devil worship. Indeed, throughout the forces evoked by the Diabolus, the rawest and densest primal forces of the earth become alive, by which the adept experiences frenzies of ecstasy, lust, and the hunger for pure, pristine experiences of life, which is interchangeable with the lust for blood. This is a logical consequence, since blood is the very essence of life itself. However, it is a dire mistake to lose oneself in this sensational state of ecstatic liberation, since it is the quest of the adept to learn to control this raw power, for it is nothing but the thriving force behind the Serpent's operational structure, namely, desire. If this force is not under the control of the adept, it degrades oneself into a beast. Something we see very clearly in many cases of serial killers and criminals. Without any proper control, our lives become an endless hamster wheel, wherein we chase our urges, lost in a never-ending cycle. The function of this force is dynamism, evolution, not sedation nor stupor. That's why the midst of hardship brings our most powerful aspects to the surface, and gives us a glimpse of the potential we'd never even knew we'd have. Situations where we not only learn the virtues of pleasure and frenzy, but also the existential necessity to learn to harness and transmute the force of our desire. For it has not only the capacity to possess and create havoc, but in most cases, it burns up our soul from the inside out. The forces of the adversary, both within and without, have the capacity to unleash that which is hidden, and that from which no one ever knew its existence. It is only a matter of time before one finds him or herself faced with its ever so fiery temptation and ordeals. For it not only serves as a projection of the hidden, the forgotten, the feared or the hated, but as a portal that displays an ever so perfect image of ourselves,